Board of Adjustment meeting to order for July 21st, 2025. First order of business is I'd like to introduce our board to you.
Brian Baker.
Donna Cook.
Anil Vera.
Kathy Slagle.
Frank Lamia.
Thank you. So our first order of business is approval of minutes.
I make a motion to approve the minutes from June 16.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion
Abstain.
carries.
Wasn't here.
All right. So we've got two items on the agenda today. The first one is 25.06 Casa Azul. And we'll let the staff tell us a little bit about it.
Thank you. So this is for a restaurant, Casa Azul, and it's requesting a special exception to allow a restaurant to operate in a B1 district. So it's the proposed restaurant's Casa Azul, and it will be located at 18348 Greeno Road, which is directly south of Southland Place off of 98. The property currently has an existing house, a well, and a gravel drive. The entire site is 2.82 acres. And like I said, it's adjacent to Southland Place. And Philip Owens is the architect and authorized agent. So it's the red rectangle and then the green one. And you can see that's us, the city PUD for Southland, that turquoise color. And that's what it looks like from the road. There's been for some time a coming soon Casa Azul sign instead, but that wasn't what picked up on the Google Earth. But if you go on 98, you can see said sign, and it's been there for quite some time. This is just a survey of the existing property. I mean, what it looks like now with that house, the concrete pad, trees, etc. You can see it's a pretty large, that's almost half of it right there. It's not subdivided as of yet, but it potentially could be, it looks like. The applicant submitted an architectural site plan, but we're just here for the use tonight, so it's a pretty picture, but it's in no way what it's necessarily going to look like if it gets approved. And we did make comments based on this proposed architectural site plan, some of which you can see the entrance, which is this semicircle thing right here, already encroaches into the right-of-way on Southland Place. We don't like that. And then there's the loadings right here, which looks like that could be problematic to get to even for a box truck. So this is just an idea, but this is not necessarily the site plan or what it's going to look like. There's also too many seats on their little chart over here, so that's in the staff report too. So restaurants in B1 districts are permitted only on appeal and subject to special conditions, so they're not a black dot in the use table. They do require appeal and subject to special conditions if we want to put special conditions on them. Just a little history, the property was annexed in the city this year, April 14th, ordinance number 1830, and the BOA, you guys go by the criteria in Article 2, Section C2, that directs the review of a special exception. That's what you guys go by, but we did make comments, so I'll rifle through them just in general. The tree ordinance is applicable, so there needs to be a tree inventory that's done by a professional prior to any land disturbance. Trees identified as diseased or what they think are diseased will need to be confirmed by the city horticulturist before anything happens. Like I mentioned before, part of the structure is within the Southland Boulevard right-of-way. We don't want that, can't happen. Vehicular access is an issue. Currently, it's undetermined. The applicant doesn't have permission from ALDOT for vehicular ingress and egress off of Greeno Road. We have heard from the applicant that ALDOT's not necessarily in favor of that. And we're not in favor of vehicular ingress and egress off of Southland Boulevard because it goes into a residential area. So access is to be determined still. They intend to discharge stormwater into the ALDOT right-of-way, which will require a permit from ALDOT as well. Like I said, too many parking spaces, and then there's no permeable parking spaces, which is required. The loading area doesn't seem to be in the best spot, even for the box trucks. sign ordinance shall conform to the sign ordinance. We didn't see any signage plan. And there shall be screening provided for the compatible uses, which is basically towards Southland Place. And right now, that part that is on the eastern part that does face Southland Place is heavily wooded. And as of right now, they intend to keep it that way as far as we know. However, if it is ever subdivided, then we would want ingress and egress off of Greeno Road, which is where, because we don't want it off of Southland Boulevard. But we're not there yet, just worth mentioning. So the utilities, garbage will be collected by a private vendor. Riviera Utilities are providing electricity or can provide electricity. Water may be provided by Fairhope Utilities, which prompted them to be annexed in to use it to get to our water. And then Fairhope Utilities can provide the gas. We had several citizen comments. They were all about the same thing, traffic noise, light pollution, mostly from the residents in Southland Place. But there is an existing approximately 1 acre of vegetated buffer that does abut Southland Place, and they intend to keep that wooded for now if the restaurant is approved or the use as a restaurant is approved. Photometric plan will be submitted with, if the use is approved, with the further review, which will have the lighting and the tall, and the shielding and stuff like that. The noise ordinance is applicable. They said the hours of operation are 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. daily. A lot of the citizens asked what the hours of operation would be. And ingress and egress for vehicles is currently undetermined. The applicant has put it on Southland Boulevard, but that's not been approved, and it's not preferred. So this is just the elevations they submitted. Again, nice pictures, doesn't necessarily mean this is what it's going to look like. So we recommend approval with conditions of the appeal to allow a restaurant to operate in B1. It's only for restaurant use only, though. If it was to do something else, then they'd have to go through the review process. But the city prefers, and we want vehicular access to be off of Greeno Road. And that is applicable to if it's ever subdivided and that eastern portion is developed to Greeno Road. We'd want that to be the access to that one, if that were to happen. So, Philip is here, and I think there are some citizens here that might want to make comments too. So,
I've got a question. Why would you want another curb cut on, what's the reason for wanting Greeno Road rather that side road that they currently have?
we wouldn't want to create more traffic on an otherwise residential road going into Southland Place. There's already traffic issues anyway when the high school's in session. And also with big box trucks, that is a residential road, so it's not really made to accommodate heavy traffic like that with that type of vehicle.
I understand. Thank you.
Is there a driveway for the house that
There
exists?
is, it's off of Greeno.
So couldn't that be used? I mean, it's,
That's an ALDOT question. I don't know. I mean, that's up to ALDOT because that's their road, but in theory, possibly it does go up. It's elevated, but that's not our call.
If ALDOT does not agree to it, is the city, I mean, it's two different entities, right? ALDOT makes the decision on Greeno Road, and the city controls Southland, is that correct?
Yeah.
So if the ALDOT says no, it doesn't really matter what we say up here in sort of way, is that correct, or, I mean?
Well, I mean,
what's
it's
their-
not, it wouldn't even be up, as planning and zoning, we don't prefer the Southland Boulevard to be the entrance, but at the end of the day, that's a right-of-way question, and they don't want that either off of Southland Boulevard, so.
Is there other design, like, could they widen the road on Southland to make that work? I mean, is there other design solutions, I
that's-
Well,
guess?
currently, the access off of Greeno Road is for the restaurant use only. If it was a different use that came in, that wasn't as vehicular oriented, that didn't have as much traffic generated from it coming in, then our Public Works Department in the city may have a different stance on if access to Southland could be used. But this is strictly for the restaurant use
Yeah.
only. Now, if ALDOT said no, and then the Board of Adjustments, I mean, we had this as a condition for approval, shall come access off of Greeno Road, that maybe that use is not the right use for that location. That's not saying that any use on this property at all would have to access Greeno Road, but this particular one during this review was determined that access would be better served off of Greeno and not off the residentially built road for Southland Place.
does this restaurant serve alcohol?
Yes.
And what about service roads? Who would be in, and would that be an AlDOT or City of Fairhope to do a service road in front? I mean, with the,
It wouldn't be planning and zoning.
it would,
So,
okay. But, I mean, it's hard to approve something that
I
doesn't
agree.
have access.
yeah, when it's undetermined, right.
So they have applied and been refused.
You will have to ask them.
Okay.
So if there's no access from Southland Place, like people coming from Southland neighborhood, how do they get into the restaurant? They got to go back out onto Greeno Road?
Yeah.
Like a
Yeah.
dangerous way to do it.
Or they would walk to the restaurant.
Yeah, I
being
mean,
direct-
ideally, they would
that
hopefully
they're
walk.
Directly adjacent.
Because
That's the way
there
it is.
are sidewalks in there, and the applicant has drawn that they would, add sidewalks.
You mentioned the subdivision of the property. Is that something that?
Not currently, and we asked them that outright, and that's not in any kind of immediate plans.
We don't have.
It's just
any-
large.
We don't
It's-
have any current application for that. The design of this, leaving the whole eastern half.
Wooded.
Right now wooded and vegetated, but unbuilt, undeveloped. If that was to ever be subdivided into the future, that the planning commission would also be looking at access for those two lots. Where would it come from? And it wouldn't be out of the normal for the access to be restricted from that subdivision to come off of one particular road or one access point shared between any newly created lots.
Would it still be zone business if it was subdivided?
Yes, unless they ask to rezone it to
Rezone it.
something
Okay, I
different.
just didn't know
Yeah,
because of the way it's
Yeah.
landlocked. Okay.
And can you add conditions on the bufferage on a lot that could be subdivided? As far as right now, it's going to be a 1 acre buffer, but
Right, well, there is the buffer requirements, a minimum that are in the zoning ordinance for the incompatible land use period already. The 1 acre far exceeds that. If they came in and subdivided the property, that was then intended to clear off of that vegetation, this particular part of this piece of property would then be adjacent to another commercially zoned piece of property. So the required buffers would then change, but the buffering would be reviewed at time of subdivision to be sure that the subdivision didn't create any type of nonconformance with that buffering.
And there'd be probably notes on there indicating the same.
Who's giving the idea that they may subdivide? I don't see that in this. I mean, why is that up?
We've just contemplated, and when you look at this thing right here, this visual,
Right.
If you look, this has parcel A right here, and this is what they submitted, so it looks as if maybe at some point, somebody was perhaps entertaining doing that, because this is this, and then it has that fluffy line,
But
so.
that's not our issue.
No.
It's not, the subdivision's not on the table at all. We just want to bring it to the applicant's attention and everybody that if anything in the future would be contemplated at the
Right.
subdivision stage, if it was a second unit could be built on that without a subdivision, that the access is still going to be a discussion at that time. But again, to be clear, this is just for the use of a restaurant on this piece of property, period. Nothing to do with subdivisions, nothing to do with other uses, just the restaurant use only. And then staff's recommendation is for approval limiting the access to Greeno Road only to allow a restaurant use.
Restaurant, yeah.
And the commercial property to the south has a driveway entrance from Greeno, right?
Correct. And they have approached them, and that was a hard no, or shared access, shared driveway, according to the applicant.
and it's currently zone B1. Is that correct?
The one that you're looking at right now? Yes, yes.
All right, at this time, we'll like the applicant to come up. You'll state your name for the record for us, please.
My name is Philip Owens, Coast Architects. So a little history, just not that it makes that much, but I want to just tell you a little bit about how we got here. You know, originally this property was in the county, and it was on B2 in the county, which is a by right restaurant. Well, the city's zoning ordinance says that anything right up that abuts the city property, that they have the right to annex if it needs any services or anything like that. So what happened was the owner, we have a house there now. It's got a water service. It's got, but obviously we're going to need a larger water service for a restaurant. And so basically we went from the county to being annexed into the city because the city would not give us water. They would not give us water for across Southland unless they were annexed. So that's why we're here as far as being annexed in. Now, you brought up a good point about the subdivision, but I mean, thinking like developers, they're probably right to assume the worst, and so I see where they're coming from as far as the potential of subdividing and wanting to do something else. This owner, he has no plans at this point now, and I guess any kind of controls for a second subdivided parcel. I mean, it would have to go through subdivision, it would have to go through site plan, whatever. He has no plans for that. So it's really, we're talking about something that is not even in the cards at this point. So the ALDOT, we know from ALDOT, we know from their guidelines that they're very difficult to deal with when it comes to changing things outside of their guidelines. Well, their guidelines talk about 250 feet. They don't want to give access onto a state highway, within 250 feet of an existing street or side road. And so we know that's a problem. We've already approached ALDOT. They said it's not within our guidelines. So, I mean, it tells us that that's a no. I mean, have we fully designed that site, engineered that site, and put it in front of them? No, we haven't done that. But we know the answer is going to be. And back to this question about the existing access, I've always wondered that same thing. Is if you have a house and you bought a piece of property and you have access, it's got a culvert in, why can't you just continue to use it? But that's not the case with ALDOT. It is, that's a big no for them. In fact, where it's coming so close to this drive, coming in and, everything, that'll never happen like that. Our best case would be they give us, and I don't think they're going to give us side-by-side access. They're not going to give us side-by-side access to the property to the south. And so the most logical solution is the access on Southland. Now, I read somewhere with one of the owners had brought up that they were concerned about property values. And I find that kind of funny because this guy's about to spend probably a $3 million restaurant on this property. So I think a better argument would be that their taxes might go up, not so much that their property values are going to go down. But so our position is, and we can't get approval from them. It's not going to happen. They've got to do their HOA and all, but that's our intent is to hopefully put it to them to upgrade. The other thing we proposed in this application was to upgrade that city street to commercial standards and to redesign that entrance if needed, whatever the widening, whatever it takes to get to commercial standards that would get the city happy. And then we're going to plant trees until they tell us to stop for these owners. Furthermore, we're talking about putting a sidewalk all around the north side of both of these properties in the event that, for pedestrian connectivity to the neighborhood. So, the noise came up, the alcohol issue came up. We're not talking about a nightclub or a bar. This guy, that was another thing I wanted to point out, was the fact that this guy, Daniel Dorda, is a current owner. He's a current resident, Fairhope. He runs agave the Mexican restaurant, right there, right there at Fairhope Avenue in Greeno, I guess it is. Been here 15 years, in business. That restaurant's staying in place. It's an additional restaurant. It's not moving operations. It's a new operation. It's a better atmosphere. I don't know if any of you have been to the Loom in Spanish Fort, but it's going to be that kind of restaurant. It's going to be a really nice restaurant with a good atmosphere. It's not a nightclub. It's not a, yes, they serve alcohol. They all do. But, the hours are 10 o'clock at night, and, you got an acre and a half between the restaurant and the subdivision. And, I'm confident that we can get these guys to like what we're doing. We don't know how we're getting there yet, but I want the, that's the goal, is to redesign that entrance, commercial standards on that entrance. And if this owner has to maintain that entrance, he will. If he has to pay into their association to help them maintain it, he will. The president had mentioned something. She was saying, well, you can't buy it. And then I started thinking, why couldn't you buy it? That'd be even a better idea, is to sell it to him and let him, they generate money and give him deeded access and keep everything the way it is. That was a thought. But my point is, we're going to work with this. I'd like to leave here this evening with an approval as a restaurant is currently zoned, just like staff recommended, subject to either entrance, the Greeno or the subdivision approval of the Southland Boulevard. That's the goal. That's what we'd like.
Did y'all, so you have not submitted to AlDOT for like a write-in, write-out option?
We have contacted AlDOT. We've sent letters to AlDOT. My engineers called them. My engineer is very aware and very up to date on their guidelines. He knows what their guidelines are, and so that's why we're, although we're here, we know that's going to be an issue. We've approached the property owner to the south, and we've even tried to work out a shared entrance with him. That's a no, because he's a pretty, I think they're a pretty busy operation too, as far as traffic in and out. And I mean, who really wants to share their current situation and then have AlDOT step in and possibly do a one out right there for both of them, So he's a hard no on that.
So how close is the present driveway that goes to the house? How many feet is it to Southland?
Well, that driveway is the whole property is only 200 feet wide along Greeno. But that drive's, I don't know, 20 feet maybe. It's not very far at all. It's way inside of their guidelines. They're not going to allow us to use that entrance at all. And then with the south property, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they would allow, but it wouldn't. I don't know. That's why I'm saying we really want Southland, and we want to satisfy these residents of Southland. We want to be a part of them, and them a part of us, And so my owner is willing to do what it takes to make them happy, as far as landscaping, connectivity, maintenance. And the city too, as far as getting the city, get this entrance done to commercial standards, because they brought up the traffic you know, and trucks or something like that. And, you know, we're talking about a dumpster truck, which is already serving the neighborhood, and we're talking about a box truck. It's not talking about 18-wheelers coming in here.
So, I guess this is a question really for staff, or from what he's saying. You're making comments that the subdivision needs to approve access from Southland. It's not owned or maintained by Southland, by the subdivision?
Southland's a city of Fairhope right away.
Okay.
Southland, the property owners of Southland subdivision, the place does not have ownership of the road that's there.
Oh,
That was built, it was built by the developer of Southland for the sole purpose of access for those residents of that neighborhood. Once the neighborhood was built, like most others, the road was then turned over to the city of Fairhope for maintenance. So it's a city of Fairhope right away.
Does Fairhope maintain it?
Yes, sir.
The entrance, the landscape and everything?
I believe the entrance there, the island, could be a part of the common area, just that island area, but the
Okay.
road itself. Similarly, he'd mentioned that he had to annex in because of the water service. The city council had passed an ordinance requiring the annexation for certain water services, which was triggered that. I want to be clear, that wasn't the zoning ordinance. That was an ordinance passed by city council. And then it was zoned by the county, and the by right restaurant use there, that still did not guarantee that there was going to be an entrance off of Southland. That would still be a right-of-way permit that went through the city of Fairhope to review for access at that point in time.
Can the city, I guess this is a kind of question I really can't, can the city deny access to a property of use?
Same way Aldott can.
So, I mean, I guess that's somehow, they have a piece of property they can't utilize at the end of the day, is
Well,
kind of,
as I said, again, this is for restaurant use
right?
only, is the only thing that we're looking at here today. And the use table, there's a whole plethora of other uses that would be suitable to that. For the volume of traffic coming on, I'm guessing they think they're gonna be a successful restaurant, so there's gonna be lots of vehicular traffic coming in and out off of Southland Place, which again was designed and intended for purpose into the neighborhood, not for a commercial use coming in and out from it. So for the restaurant use, staff has talked with our Public Works Department, city engineer, and the overwhelming view of that has been for access to come off of Greeno Road and not off of Southland Place.
So, and all we're doing is voting, just like you just said, for the special exception to be able to utilize this if they can get access from
Correct.
Green Road. Or
Correct.
just if they can get access, period.
Would be it's listed with the condition of approval, then it would be access from Greeno Road or access from the, technically the southern property, because it would be coming off of Greeno through theirs to this. So I know they've exhausted, Proterium has exhausted the options with that neighboring property owner, and then having a confirmation from Aldott. If we had something from Aldott that confirmed that, then, our engineers and our public works could maybe reevaluate the entrance to that neighborhood of what would it take to do that, and if it was even viable at that point. But
Right.
that would then be a different review.
Would it come back to us if that was the case?
Yes,
Okay,
it would have to.
thank you.
I would like to, I didn't know that the city owned the Southland, because in talking to the president of HOA, she was saying, well, we pay our HOA dues, we maintain. So now it's clear to me how it works. They maintain the entrance drive, and Fairhope owns the streets. So I take that back. I would like to see you guys to be the hero and approve this, subject to getting the turnout on the Southland Boulevard and us having to satisfy the city to to bring it up to commercial standards, maintain it whatever way we got to do, and go ahead. Because what happens if we leave here with approval subject to the Greeno, then all of a sudden, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Aldott, but Aldott is almost not happening right now. They've lost several employees. They they are 6 months out before they will even review something like this. And, you know, it just prolongs what we already know, is that they don't want it and it doesn't fit within their guidelines. So, you know, now I change, not only is my client willing to make the owners happy, but we're willing to bring this street up to commercial standards and do whatever it takes to do what it would be on a commercial side artery street.
Would the city allow them to come in there and say, rip up this road from Greeno down to their entrance to make it, you know?
That is not an answer planning and zoning has to do that.
Yeah.
That would be a discussion with, no, we couldn't. That would be a discussion with our Public Works Department and our city engineer that looks
Right.
at the road plans, construction of all of that. That's not a planning and zoning. We've looked at it, we've discussed that with them, and their first initial, discussion was, no, we don't want entrance off of Southland Place. Yeah, there wasn't no discussion of if they add a turn lane, if they thicken the road by 8 inches, that wasn't a discussion. This what was, no, we don't want access off of Southland Place for a restaurant use. We could potentially, if the board so chose, wanted to allow the applicant more time to discuss that with our Public Works and our city engineer, to if there was something that could be done. I don't know if there is anything that can be done that would change their mind of upgrading the road. Because again, that road, its primary access is for residential, for the residents getting in. So there's concern of all that additional traffic coming into that entrance for the neighborhood. It's a longer entrance than most entrances to neighborhoods, but an entrance nonetheless.
And I mean, don't know if this is true or not, but you might have to even get AlDOT approval to widen Southland to be able to
There would,
upgrade
it
Southland
would
to be able
require
to do that.
any upgrades to Southland Place there at the intersection of Greeno Road and Southland Place. would
Anything in their
require-
right-of-way is
would
gonna
require
require
an
a
AlDOT permit to do that work.
Right. So it's still getting AlDOT approval, no matter which way, it's still requiring AlDOT approval.
Yes, sir.
Well, it could be a right-of-way approval. You know, I'm not sure there's a lot of construction needed out there. I think widths and all are good. I don't know. I mean, you're right.
There's a lot of questions of that, that is not planning and zoning related to the construction, to the size, to the, how in-depth would any type of improvement be that would be needed out there. But I believe that if there was any improvements to Southland Place, it would require coordination with AlDOT out there. It's hard to do anything but repave a road and stay within your right-of-way at an intersection line.
So I got a quick, so, for example, if we approve it and say that they have to come off of Greeno Road, and then AlDOT says you can't come off of Greeno Road, then what happens?
Then it would not be a restaurant.
Or they would have to reapply
Or reapply if there was some other, if they had further
with,
discussions
with a different thing in mind.
Correct.
They wouldn't have to wait a year to do that.
No, sir.
All right, well, thank you. This time we'll open the public portion of the meeting. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak for or against? If you'll come up and state your name and address for us.
Yeah, my name is Bruce Margrader. I live at 100 Kemper Lane, which is at the intersection of Southland Place and Kemper. One thing, I am also the vice president of the HOA for the Southland Place. One thing that I'd like to point out here that doesn't seem to have been discussed is there off of Greeno for southbound traffic, there is no left turn into Southland Place. You have to go up and make a U-turn further down the road. You can turn into Manley Boulevard, or not Boulevard, it's Manley Street, I guess. But that forces you to take a hard right on Kemper Lane. If say you were going to the restaurant, you would have to go up Manley, down Kemper to Southland Place, and then make a left turn into the restaurant. That's, Kemper is not a street, it is a lane, as the title suggests. So, it's fairly narrow. We had the sidewalks all redone, so we've got the wide sidewalks. It's a pleasant place to walk. It's not a traffic street. It's not, you can barely get two vehicles going through there at a time. So, this has been discussed by the HOA. We haven't taken a vote from the property owners at this time that I'm aware of, but we certainly can do that. But, the consensus right now is just it would be a traffic nightmare. We're not against the restaurant per se, but the entrance, the egress, it's not workable. We do, by the way, maintain the little island at the entrance of Southland Place, but it's kind of a pinch point. So, any questions for me?
Is Southland Boulevard the only access in and out of that development?
No.
Manly.
Manly, okay.
No, there is, Manly has, there's 3 more streets that feed off into the, there's Kemper and 2 more streets that feed off into the neighborhood. But Manly really is the primary feeder for Southland Place, not Southland Boulevard. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Victor Watley, 120 Vivian Loop. I'm a little confused because the approval was contingent on the access from Greeno.
Right.
And now the representative is saying he doesn't even want to go down that route, and he's wanting to pursue what has been already denied. So I almost feel like this is a pointless, or it shouldn't be approved, this conversation now until the city's work is respected, so to speak. With regard to, he mentioned the HOA, and he said we don't have an issue with the restaurant. I appreciate everything he said, but I am an owner, and he doesn't represent all of us, and I do have an issue with the restaurant. I have 14 reasons here that I didn't get a chance to submit this, or I was tardy in finding out about this. So 14, one of those was property value. So I appreciate, now I have 15 because taxes is another one, so thank you for that. Egress, we talked about that. Egress into the adjacent Southland Place. It's a residential community. There's at least 54 residents that are countable on the form that she said, but there's more in the neighborhood than that. It's going to increase traffic congestion, presenting safety concerns and quality of life. I'm sorry, forgot his name, but he did ask you guys to be heroes for him and his client. I'm asking you to be heroes for the 54 plus residents and citizens of Fairhope. Noise pollution. Restaurants, especially those with outdoor seating, bars, or evening operations, can generate significant noise from patrons, music, kitchen equipment, deliveries, garbage collection, disrupting the peace and quiet of nearby residents. The construction will increase the noise that comes from 98 because there will be, although there's the tree ordinance, that's specific trees, but any tree that is cut down is considered a noise barrier. So, and then you'll have the parking lot and the building structure that's likely going to increase the acoustics there. So the noise pollution is a concern. because a restaurant's hours of operation is different than many other businesses, and they do intend to operate past 5 o'clock. Odors and waste management issues. Kitchen exhaust fumes, grease disposal generate unpleasant odors and permeate nearby homes, impacting air quality and the quality of life. Typical restaurant odors are from grease, buildup, drain clogs, mold, food waste, ventilation. Even smells that are normally attractive, so to speak, are not so much if they're everyday and predictable. They can give a negative change to the character of the area. Unwanted pests. Restaurants and dumpsters can affect pests, create unsanitary conditions, and detract from the neighborhood aesthetics, not to mention the increased cost of living for additional pest treatment for those that are especially close to the area. There is a negative impact on property value. I mentioned that. Restaurants can decrease the value of property, making it more difficult to also sell, so it can prolong that sales cycle, not only the value, but if you need to leave or sell your property, it could delay that because there would be more favorable homes that are a further distance away. Safety and security concerns. That was brought up in some of the letters that were submitted. Increased traffic. Okay, so there's the traffic concerns. Hours of operation, transient workers, patrons, particularly at night, can sometimes lead to concerns in safety and security of the residential areas, including alcohol, drugs, smoking, and other forms of illegal activity. We mentioned the last gentleman who spoke mentioned the access. So it's going to become, whether you want it or not, it will become a throughfare, so that people would actually turn right into the neighborhood leaving. And if they are, I don't know a Mexican restaurant that doesn't serve margaritas or cerveza. Change in the neighborhood character. The influx of commercial activity and the presence of a restaurant will alter the residential character of Southland Place, impacting the community's sense of place, peace, and quiet enjoyment. Signage and lighting is going to be an aesthetic concern. Such lighting will extend into the evening due to the hours of operation of the restaurant. Serving alcohol, that was mentioned. There's 2 public schools very close, the middle school and the high school, and also the residents with children. And I think it was brought up that I believe there's an autism, some children with autism or disabilities that are in the neighborhood. That was in one of the letters that I saw in the package. Hours of operation, they're going to be operating past 6 p.m. Parking in the adjacent is adjacent to residential homes, so there's the noise and the aesthetics of a parking lot and the lighting from that. Privacy concerns and light pollution as well. Removal of the trees, I mentioned that. And then the construction process, that's going to it is going to be, some time associated with that. It was also brought up with regard to just box trucks. Well, I work in the trucking industry, and there's not a truck that operates quietly. So the hours of operation whether it's a box truck or an 18-wheeler, it's going to be making deliveries early in the morning or late at night. So that's going to be a noise concern. The dumpster operation already as well. And the other thing is, there were some things spoken about the plans, like this. The owner is going to do anything for the HOA, but now he's going to do anything for these people. There's been no planning here, because if there was planning done beforehand, they would have known that the utility, there was not enough sufficient utilities. I mean, they purchased the property, or it was in the county and it moved because the planning was not done. So it's moved over here, and then the planning obviously is like changing minute by minute because they're learning things. So I don't want to, you guys, when you approve it as a restaurant, you approve it not just for these people, for the existence. So if you approve it as a restaurant, they don't like something, and for whatever reason they sell, it's available to be a restaurant for anyone else. So it doesn't matter how long this guy's been in the community and that he's got one successful restaurant. None of that matters, because you are taking the land and changing what its use is for. The definition here is an exception. They're asking to make an exception to the rule, and we're going to be subject to that. So that's considerations I'd like for you to take into account. Questions?
Anybody else from the public that would like to speak for or against the project?
Jennifer Renier, I reside at 112 Vivian Loop. One thing that I wanted to point out, yes, we do have the entrance to Greeno Road that we cannot take a left and go south on. But the entrance to Manley is congested heavily by school traffic in the mornings, in the afternoons. So we, in the patio home section, which I do believe there's 54, we utilize the entrance that we have provided for us on Greeno. If we were to want to leave on Manley to either go north or south, you are not allowed to take a left turn anytime that school is in session or traffic, whether it's before or after. So 7:15 in the morning until 8, and then I think 2:30 to 3:15, you cannot even utilize that to take a left to go south. So I just wanted to bring that up because that entrance on Southland Boulevard is the main entrance to our homes on the patio section. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that would like to speak for or against it before we close the public portion? All right, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. Go ahead, yeah.
So I apologize if I represented or said that the HOA was for it. I have spoken to the president. I feel like, they have to go through a whole, notices and proxies and voting like that. I feel like the majority of these people will be for it. So I didn't mean to represent that they're all for this because that's not the case. But I do feel like we can get there with them. The traffic concerns, I mean, the traffic, the whole reason why, I mean, the traffic will be in some ways worse off of Greeno than it will be off of Southland because we're trying, I mean, AlDOT has their guidelines in place for a reason, and that is for traffic controls and things. And, I just feel like that this is a better option for the city and the residents having it off an existing side street. And I don't think it's going to be that difficult to get there. But with that said, they recommended approval coming off Greeno. I definitely don't want to throw that aside. I would like for it not to be limited and let us get back with the city and try to work it out with something out where we could go the better option in our opinion, which is Southland.
So are you withdrawing?
No, I'm saying we keep, I don't want to withdraw that. We'll take what we can get, obviously, but I don't want to limit it to Greeno either. I want to be able to go back and because I feel like we're going to have to go back at some point anyway. We spend the next 6 months going through AlDOT, engineering that site one way, parking, drainage, and everything one way for AlDOT, then they're going to deny us and we're going to be right back at starting point. Just having restaurant approval is a step in the right direction, even though I know we'll be right back with the city and Southland at some point.
We were to approve this based on your recommendations, we would, in essence, be saying you can't come in off of Southland, right?
Right.
So I'm not following how that does you any good.
Well, you'll be saying, that's what I'm saying. You'll be saying that you can't access the restaurant off of Southland.
Right.
That your only option is it's approved off Greeno. And that's what I'm saying, is I'm saying, please let us keep that option open for now so that we don't have to, so we can get with the city and do what we got to do to come back to Southland at that time, which is where I feel like it's going to end up having to be.
So if we go along with city recommendations, he's not going to be able to come back in a month after he's figured something out with the city for Southland, right?
Not without coming back before this board for a new approval without that condition.
Oh, he has
If
to.
that is the route that the board thought was gonna be the best interest was to try to see if the city, i.e. our public works and city engineer, has some type of solution that allows that access, then I would say that you would need to take no action other than tabling it to allow additional time for the applicant to approach those departments individually to try to see if there is an option, because no option was given to us, as we were reviewing this, writing a staff report, putting this together, that otherwise there would be a condition of approval to upgrade said Southland Place Road to condition X, Y, and Z, and these are the requirements for that. But that discussion was never even really breathed into light, so I don't know that there is an option that exists for that.
So the staff don't want Southland, and they don't want the entrance off Southland. It takes time, money, and effort to put ideas in place that, so in our defense, we didn't put solutions forward to satisfy that, but the city certainly didn't put any solutions. So Southland is a hard no with the city right now.
Right.
And so that's what I'm saying, is if we at least keep that as option open, the approval could force that issue to deal with the city and Southland if we run into a dead end with Aldott, which we feel like is gonna happen.
On the
It
flip
sounds like-
side, if we say no to Southland and you go to Aldott, you might be able to say to them, we have no other option, and that might force them to open up that as an option to you. Correct? Because
I think that's
the other side of
Aldott normally
that.
doesn't lose those city battles like that.
I'm just saying, there's
Right.
just two sides to that coin, right?
Right.
So,
Right, but at least it keeps the door open for, okay, we at least got approval for a restaurant here, so now we need to figure out what if the city's against it on Southland, and some of the residents are against it and some of the residents are against it on Southland, Aldott's gonna be against it on Greeno.
you're saying that, but you haven't gone down that full road yet, so.
We've talked to
You just said before that you have not submitted anything to them,
We
so.
have not submitted full engineering plans for review and approval.
Right. But I guess I'm just trying to understand if we say no to that, if we approve it based off the city's recommendations, you'd have something new to go to Aldott with and talk to them. And ultimately, you're gonna have to come back and talk to the city if they say no, and go back and try to go back to their right of way and see if they'll say yes, and then come back to us at that point in time.
Well, like
mean,
I
we're
said, something is better than
Yeah.
nothing.
Why did this property get brought in as B1 versus B2? Was that a conversation at the city council level that we need to understand? They might have had concerns about some uses that we need to understand that as well?
Yeah, so it came in as, for B1 instead of B2 because the list of uses inside of B2 are a lot broader
Right.
than what it is for B1. And at that location, staff and city council was not in support of having just a blanket B2, which is a much higher intense use possibilities related to that.
Well, I mean, there are, but by right, there's only a few additional uses by B2, and one of them is restaurant. I guess what I was asking, was that something that was discussed at the city council level that we're overriding here in any way?
No, we're not overriding anything. Like I said, when it was zoned to B1, there were no conditions attached to that zoning case. It was now anything listed under that use chart for B1 is acceptable to follow whatever procedures listed in the zoning ordinance for that.
Thank you.
I think we need, this is our staff, I think we need to stick to the plan on the bottom of page 4, which is approval.
Chairman, the public hearing is still open.
Oh,
Just-
I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought I closed the public, yeah. We'll close the public portion of the meeting, and board members will discuss and make a motion.
What that gentleman wants is not anywhere in our plans. I think we need to stick to what was in our plans, approval, and if he doesn't want to withdraw it and resubmit it using the Southland place, then that's a different thing that we're voting on. We're not voting on Southland. We're voting on the, allowing the restaurant to operate in a B1 and restrict it to access from Greeno Road. There is no place in here where it says anything about entrance on Southland, so if he wants that, I think he's got to come back and work with the city or,
And the HOA.
and make a different presentation.
And for the record break, the HOA has no bearing, I understand,
Right.
their comments and all, exactly knowing how the community feels, that's why we're here, that's why we're a public hearing. But, for example, their HOA doesn't take a vote on an entrance to be at a certain
Right.
location or not, for that to be any type of the approval process. So certainly take in all the facts and all the comments that have been made, but that's not a vote for anything that happens with any of our cases.
Make a motion to approve based off of city recommendations of access only via Greeno Road.
I second it.
All in favor, we'll take a roll call vote. Ryan?
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
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 Motion carries to approval of a restaurant with access on Greeno Road. All right, our second order of business, BOA 25.08, is the Fairhope Church of Christ.
I'll give them just a few seconds to clear out so it's not as noisy.
Yeah, I don't know where it is.
All right. Good evening, Board. Mike Jeffries with the City of Fairhope. This is a public hearing to consider the request of Chris Lieb, engineer, on behalf of Fairhope Church of Christ for a special exception to allow for a church on property zoned R1, single-family residential. The property is located at 860 Greeno Road and approximately 11.2 acres. On the screen on the left is our zoning map. You can see that the surrounding properties are R1 as well. And on the right is the aerial. For context, the properties to the east are the the Auburn Extension Center. On the screen is the proposed conditions. It has approximately a 4,000 square foot proposed building with a circular drive coming in to access this. Currently, a place of worship per the zoning ordinance, not indicated as a use allowed by right or a use subject to special conditions, nor on appeal to the Board of Adjustments. But historical precedent has brought us before the board for a use not provided for in this case. You'll see on the preliminary site plan that was submitted, it illustrates a general layout of approximately 100-seat sanctuary. The applicant and staff has met, discussed issues and challenges with this location. At time of permit, additional civil plans would be submitted for review should the special exception be granted. Access on Greeno Road would also be approved by ALDOT. The proposed plan shows a right-in, right-out entrance. The entrance and drainage work all occur in the ALDOT right-of-way and would be permitted through ALDOT. The church actually previously was located on the immediately to the south. That has been sold to a separate owner. Connectivity is shown on this proposed site plan to that southern property and would require approval from that owner to connect their drive. So during the review, staff did not, for as noise, for as the church is literally relocating just to the property to the north. And I will let them go into details onto the whys for the new facility. We did receive one email from a Jonathan Kerrigan who owns several of the neighboring properties, and he is in full support of this request this evening. Staff's recommendation is approval of case BOA 25.08 to allow the use of a church. I'm here and happy to answer any questions on behalf of staff, and I have Chris Lieb for Lieb Engineering to answer any questions on behalf of the applicant tonight.
All right, well, thank you. the applicant. Would you like to come up and state your name for the record, please?
Yes, sir. My name is Chris Lee with Lee Engineering Company, and I'm just here on behalf of the owner, and I'll answer any questions that you may have because he gave a good presentation as to what we're trying to do, and I've got nothing further to add at this point.
What is your progress on trying to get entrance from 98?
DOT. So we are far enough away from adjacent driveways to meet the management access that AlDOT has set for us. So we're over 250 feet away from a neighboring driveway, so we don't see any issues. And we've talked with AlDOT, and they've gave us the preliminary nod that, yes, this will be acceptable.
Can you flip it back to the site plan? Sorry. Yeah, thanks.
I can use a computer.
Why are you connecting to the property, the adjoining property?
So that was something that was brought up real preliminarily, and this is a real preliminary site plan. I don't see that that's going to actually happen anymore, but that's just the picture that, we currently have drawn. But it's one of those, it was the existing church is on that property to the south. So they never told me why, to be honest. But if it's something that y'all don't like, you can definitely let me know, and we'll definitely take it out. And I'm sure probably at the site plan review process, they won't like it either.
So what are your chances of using the driveway to the south where your church was?
So the new owner doesn't want all of the church traffic coming through his property. So that's why, they had talked about it at first, and that's why I drew it in there. But further talks they're not really privy to having all the church traffic come in and out and through his property for, in perpetuity. So that's why we drew the other driveway to the DOT road to get, right in, right out access on 98 only for the church. And that's going to be their driveway and not through the existing one to the south.
So have you approached AlDOT?
Yes, ma'am.
And?
They preliminary said, they said we'll have to look into the details of your submittal, which is their caveat they always say. But they said they don't have any big concerns with where it is. So in AlDOT speak, they said, yes, you can have your driveway there.
So the problem with shared driveways is that who maintains it? Is that the problem when you have two property owners?
Well,
owning?
So I guess in the right-of-way, it would be, the AlDOT would have to maintain everything that's in the right-of-way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a shared access on a property line, so you drive in, then you either go left or right to whatever property you're going for. But if you have people driving all the way through somebody else's property to get somewhere else, that can become an issue because, the church traffic is not going to be an issue. But if you had two unlike businesses and using the same driveway in front of one business that's closed, they may not want a bunch of traffic in front of them on their property in their parking lot because there's more wear and tear on their parking lot than there would be otherwise. So that's typically why people don't share cross-access easements in front of their businesses. But shared driveways on a property line are more common.
Traffic exiting the church wanting to go south will have to go north and make a U-turn at the light on 104?
Yes, ma'am. And I've spoken with the church, and they understand that, and they have accepted that that's what they're going to have to do, and they're okay with it.
Is there any way to have an exit on 104?
There's an existing residence to the north of here, and so you've got a whole bunch of traffic heading east and trying to get a driveway. Then there's a big concrete ditch there, and there's guardrails, and it's just it's not really feasible. It'd be one of those things like the previous case. AlDOT would probably say, no, it's too close to that major intersection.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll open it to the public portion of the meeting. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak for or against it? Close the public portion. Board members, do we have a discussion and a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote. Ryan?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Okay. Do we have any old or new business? Okay, do we have anything pending for coming up? We do have for next month. Okay, have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. See you next month. Thank you.